Yeah. For example, the Magnetar Capital case, or Magnetar Capital one that State Street was selling, that I think Massachusetts went after and got $5 million out of State Street. There was an internal email where the State Street guy was like, "I don't like that, Magnetar's short on this." Like, they knew this. They didn't like the idea of it. They obviously had some ethical or some sort of business hang up about it, but it was not disclosed to the people who bought the securities.
And here, let's bring it back.
Was that required? Okay, all right.
That's called securities fraud.
Yeah.
But is that the definition of securities fraud?
Yes.
To be selling securities of two different kinds?
That's not what we just said. We didn't just say two different kinds.
It's selling something that you know is bad. If you know,
oh right, you're selling one and you're buying the other.
If you know you got a package of subprime mortgages of unemployed people,
right?
And look, this is also part of it. This is part of why they were criminal institutions. They had due diligence departments, and who would look at the loans and make sure they were of the quality that they were supposed to be, that they met the bank standards. But repeatedly at all the banks, I mean, this came out. There was a lot of people who worked in that department who were in the recent Frontline episode. But I mean, these people were told from higher up, you weren't allowed to say fraud. Like, that was the F word. Like, you couldn't say, basically they wanted to okay everything. I mean, who is the guy? I think it was there was a whistleblower, I think in Citigroup. He was saying how their policy was fund them, and they made it was like an internal joke out of it. One guy had a license plate that said fund them, and they basically their philosophy was, it basically, if they can fog a mirror, like they literally said that, like if they can fog a mirror, give them a loan. If they got a heartbeat, give them a loan. They don't need a job. They don't need anything. Like, give them a loan. Give them one of these loans. Crank them out for Wall Street. They'll make the fees. They'll pass on the buck. Pass it to, pensions, all kinds of different funds who don't know.
Yeah.
And then they got AAA ratings. This is part of the thing. It's a whole criminal. It's even bigger than just criminal. It's even bigger than just the corporations. It's the whole industry.
So
I mean,
the credit agencies.
When we're talking about these mortgage securitizations, didn't the ratings agencies say that these are good-looking securities?
They give them
and
AAA.
then the company selling them said, yes, these are good-looking because the rating agency said so?
Yeah, but there was...
I mean, is that fraud?
No, but see, here's how the incentives are set up, though. They have a conflict of interest. They used to go by subscription until the 1970s. So basically, companies would pay a certain amount, like a subscription, to get the credit ratings.
Yeah.
But now they're paid fees, and the more complex the financial instrument is, the higher they have to pay for it.
But
there's also competition. I mean, you can go to Moody's. Moody's doesn't give you the rating you want. You go to Fitch. Fitch doesn't give it to you.
Yeah, if you're not going to give me AAA ratings, I'll take this business elsewhere.
Yeah, I know.
I agree. That's a messed up incentive structure.
But it's not like nobody didn't know this was going to happen.
That's the whole point.
If people were saying that the bubble was going to pop in 2002, 2003,
even earlier than that.
State Senator Vincent Ford, he devised the most aggressive predatory lending law in the whole country. And you know what the corporations did, the banks did? They invested so much money into Sonny Perdue to remove Roy Barnes, because Roy Barnes signed that law that was sponsored by Vincent Ford, and it prevented predatory lending. And they were saying, oh no, this is going to make banks incapable to make money in Georgia. So, they said they that's quote by quote. That's what they said.
No predatory lending, banks are going to be gone.
Yeah, without predatory lending, banks are going to fail in Georgia.
Goddamn credit unions.
So they bankrolled Sonny Perdue's campaign. First thing he did was repeal the law, and it went back into effect. And what happened when the financial crisis hit? Georgia's
on top. It was
the worst state. Yeah,
I mean, Atlanta I think had the highest metro rate of foreclosure.
Atlanta was the highest metro. I think Georgia was 2 or 3.
Yeah,
as far as worst states.
Yeah, for bank failures. Yeah.
Not even for bank failure, for foreclosure too.
Metro Atlanta is number one.
They knew people in the industry. They knew, and they did it anyway because they wanted to get away with so much money, and they knew that nobody's going to be prosecuted.
Privatized profits, socialized.
A lot of people didn't know, man. That's the thing. There were a few people who knew.
Even before then, Joey, you're sort of right in laying the problem as political, but even then, people were calling for, like, Brooks Lee Bourne, the head of the Commodity Futures Trading Commission at the time in '99 and 2000 when Clinton was on his way out. And so this is why people want to act like Democrats got their hands clean. Hell no, dude. They're in bed with the financial industry even more than Republicans are.
Clinton repealed Glass-Steagall.
They repealed Glass-Steagall. Brooks Lee Bourne called this. She called that this would happen. That derivatives trading would get super risky, and that there would be. She called it. She called it in '99 and 2000 when she was fighting against it. And who are the people? The quote.
Blackballed by the financial industry after that?
Oh yeah. Oh no. She just quit as soon as the Commodity Futures Modernization Act went through, and the repeal of Glass-Steagall. She just quit. But yeah, I mean, it was all.
Thank God, Obama's current advisors like Larry Summers were there to tell Brooks Lee Bourne she was wrong.
That's what I was gonna say. Larry Summers was on her. Robert Rubin. Who else? Arthur Levitt was the head of the SEC at the time. I mean, and who is Alan Greenspan, of course. I mean, they were all saying that, like, this is a good thing for the economy. It's going to free up the markets and all this. It's going to reduce risk. Timothy Geithner even said it. Timothy Geithner, Ben Bernanke said this just in, like, the years leading up to the crisis. They said that derivatives and credit, they praised credit default swaps, saying they'd reduce risk. Yeah. Everyone thought they'd reduce risk. Really what they did is they multiplied it and hit it.
All right, now, I know a lot of people who think that the repeal of Glass-Steagall, that caused a financial crisis. Do any of you think it caused a financial crisis?
It contributed to it. I think the direct cause was more, it was the creditors' default swap. But Glass-Steagall didn't help the situation at all. I mean, if you look at Dodd-Frank, it's not even 1/10 of what Glass-Steagall was.
Well, actually, it's a lot more than 1/10. Glass-Steagall was only 37 pages, but Dodd-Frank is over 2,300. That's a lot of.
But it was simplified. It was simplified. You have this big complex bill that doesn't do shit when you have 37 pages. That was simple.
You want to know? Like, look, there's the Volcker rule. The Volcker rule was part of the Dodd-Frank, and it went in. It was originally 10 pages, I think. And then, after loopholes and exemptions and all that got pushed into it, after the lobbyists, got their teeth into it, and it still hasn't gone into effect, but now it's over 300 pages. So it went from 10 pages, the simple rule, to over 300 pages. It was basically just to try to stop banks from investing and gambling, essentially, with depositors' money. And it went from 10 pages, very simple. Volcker wrote it, he's former Federal Reserve Chairman, right? And now it's 300 pages. It's 30 times bigger. And you know what all that is? All that's loopholes. It's to make sure everybody who has enough money to...
Exactly. It's mostly loopholes. It's very few pages of regulation.
And Dodd-Frank left open 400 rules for federal regulators to interpret and create. And as of December 2012, so only a few months ago, only a third of those regulations were complete. And something that motivates, you may ask yourself, why did Congress pass a bill that was over 2,000 pages long, but with 400 things left to do? And it's about lobbying. Because if you can pass a bill, this was reported in the Christian Science Monitor, if you can pass a bill and you leave it open-ended so that through multiple years things can be in flux and you may have to pressure the regulators in certain ways, then you're just holding your hands open like, hey, financial industry, give me money because then I can go talk to the regulators for you. It's begging for money.
The problem is you're never going to get adequate financial regulation when you have to go to the financial institutions to get permission to do it. Which I mean that whoever the policymaker is, whether it's state, local, it could be the president of the United States, they have to, if they're up for re-election or if they want to secure the future of their party, they have to appease these people because they know if they piss them off very bad, that it's going to be like what happened to Roy Barnes in 2002.
Now, see, I could not disagree any more with what Brian said about the 400 rules and how they're going to be impacted by all these plutocratic interests. But think about it. These are experts who serve on boards who don't have to run for re-election, who don't have any campaign money.
Out of the financial crisis?
Yeah, here, let me point out something.
These former financial executives showing.
One of the main things of the Dodd-Frank bill was something called the Financial Stability Oversight Committee, which is 10 voting members. They're all financial regulators, and it's chaired by, guess who? The Treasury Secretary. So isn't that convenient? Because for the past, 20 years, the Treasury Secretary has basically been a shill for the banks. I mean, everyone from, Robert Rubin, who followed him? Larry Summers,
Hank Paulson,
and Timothy Geithner. I mean, they're all always. It's just an incestuous relationship between Washington.
So here's the thing: that the experts who serve on these boards don't have money to accept for any campaigns. The boards that make these decisions,
but they have money
such as the Federal Reserve, the
these
SEC,
companies still.
you name it.
But people in Congress can influence the regulators while they're regulating.
By doing what? By talking to them? That's the thing. Money's not going to be an issue in that case.
Chambliss's website, for example, it says, "Are you having problems with a federal agency? Call me."
If we have that is funny, but no, seriously, if we have panels that are set up, and these are of experts, they're appointed, they get these positions. And you're in Congress, I mean, you can talk to these people, but at the end of the day, these are experts who make decisions that they're not getting any money for doing.
Are these the same experts that were just kind of sitting there guarding our economy so it wouldn't crash into the financial crisis?
All right, that is a good point. But no, I mean, but here's the thing: like these are the experts in some cases that were at agencies where they were not getting any funding, so they couldn't really do anything anyway.
So your argument is the public should trust the government. These guys are experts.
I don't think anybody ever tries to make that argument. But if you're going to try and come up with a system to make this work, it's a lot better that you have experts on panels that are appointed to these things, making these positions, and people in Congress making these decisions. Because the people in Congress, first of all, don't know enough to make those kinds of complex financial decisions.
That's why they have
and secondly,
staff members, and that's why there are people that go talk to them.
But then secondly, the thing is that plutocracy does have an automatic effect on them, an immediate impact, whereas something like, say, the Federal Reserve or the SEC or the FDIC, they don't have that immediate influence.
No, I agree that sometimes independent panels can be a good instrument of policy. No, I'll totally agree with you on that principle. But what I'm saying is what the Christian Science Monitor reported, and that is an extra incentive for Congress to stretch it out and to leave the law open-ended because it allows them to get more money from the financial industry for campaign donations for years to come.
So they can basically campaign against things that the FDIC is doing, for instance?
Exactly.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah, so, I mean, that may be something that they're thinking about, but I don't really think that was one of their primary or ulterior motives.
Yeah, I'm not sure where it was on their list.
But it was a go.
But I want to mention something, and that's a little bit of a culture thing, and that is what I think and others have perceived to be an ethical collapse on Wall Street, where there is more of a rampant criminality. And Charles Ferguson, who did Inside Job, he wrote a book recently, Predator Nation, where he lays out multiple examples, Joey, I think you should read it, of where he calls out specific security frauds, examples of where they should have, the Justice Department should investigate, should prosecute. And John Bogle, who is one of the only people in the industry, the financial industry, that is a leader, CEO. He's a former CEO of the Vanguard Group. And John Bogle also agrees that there was rampant criminality and that there's just not any prosecutions. And there's a May 2012 report on Reuters, and that goes through all kinds of the HSBC crap, all kinds of stuff. And what Reuters said HSBC did were lapses of extraordinary breadth. Just ridiculous stuff. So like HSBC, for example, was profiting off of drug dealers while the public was stuck with a fraudulent system that privatizes illegitimate profits, but then it socializes criminal losses. It's a
so you're saying that the criminal losses, as in like cars and property that's obtained from criminals?
Criminal deals, in the sense that these criminal deals resulted in all these losses for investors. So it's just...
And not just investors. I mean, financial crisis hit. My mom lost like a quarter of her retirement savings. My grandparents lost huge chunks of their retirement savings, and same with millions of Americans. Because that's what they were invested in. I mean, they were supposed to be only bet on safe things. AAA
a lot of people lost their jobs.
A AAA rating is supposed to be as safe as a T-bill.
America lost its AAA rating.
And the stock market, stock market's back up. That's great if you stayed in the market. A lot of people, when they see their life savings go out the window, they get scared and they sell. Well, you know what? That's when other people who know when to wait for a bargain are buying it up. So